So right now, we have a special report about what else is happening around the country. Take a look.
Here are today's top crime stories trending on Law&Crime.com and across the country. A teen is recovering after a friend pushed her off of a bridge in Washington, and the incident was caught on camera. 16-year-old Jordan Holgerson is seen being shoved off the bridge near Moulton Falls.
3,
no, I won't go in.
2.
Well, she's saying no.
No, I just...
Ready? Oh, that's so close.
Holgerson suffered 5 broken ribs, a punctured lung, and air bubbles in her chest. The Clark County Sheriff's Office is investigating the incident, and it is unclear if the friend who shoved her will be criminally charged. The son of a California police chief is facing charges after he was caught on camera attacking an elderly Sikh man. 18-year-old Tyrone Keith McAllister, son of Union City Police Department Chief Daryl McAllister, is seen on video with an unidentified 16-year-old accomplice attacking the 71-year-old Sikh man who doesn't speak English. McAllister's father released a letter to the public addressing his disappointment in his son's actions. McAllister faces charges of elder abuse, assault with a deadly weapon, and attempted robbery. A woman who claims she was raped by a detective while in custody of police in New York City recorded video of being harassed while being served a subpoena by a representative for that detective's lawyer.
Yo, he's not letting me move.
I'm not letting you move?
Look at this.
Look at what? There's a subpoena right there.
Thanks a lot. Now get out of my house.
Oh, Ghost.
Go ahead. Go
Don't
ahead.
tell me what to do.
Get the hell out of here.
No.
No, okay.
I'm from the
So
sheriff's
let's record
office.
each
I
other.
can do whatever I want.
Let's do it. Stupid. Oh, I'm a stupid bitch, you heard?
The alleged victim, Anna Chambers, claims NYPD detectives Eddie Martins and Richard Hall raped her in a van after she was arrested on suspicion of marijuana possession. Both detectives maintained that the sex with Chambers was consensual. Those were today's top crime stories. I'm Anthony Velez for Law and Crime.
Thank you as always, Anthony. Go to lawandcrime.com to learn a little bit more of the top trending stories of the day. But we got to talk about that last story right now. And joining me, I'm so happy she's here to join me on Happy Friday right now, Law and Crime trial analyst Yosha Gunesekera. Yosha, good to see you.
It's great to be here.
Now, that is not what you're supposed to do when you serve someone, right?
No.
Was he even part of the sheriff's office? No, right?
No, he wasn't. He wasn't part of the sheriff's office. There's so many things that he is doing wrong here. And it's even possible that if the DA and the police wanted to prosecute him for a crime, it's possible here.
Why was he videotaping her? Is that something people do when they serve?
No, it's not something that I've ever seen. Now, service of subpoenas is a very common practice here in the legal profession, but what's really bizarre is he's trying to videotape her. He's trying to harass her, and once someone who is serving a subpoena is told to leave, they need to leave the property, and he's not doing that.
So the lawyer representing one of the detectives, that was the guy that he hired to send that out, but he even said, look, he went above and beyond this is not what he should have been doing. He acknowledged that this is the person he sent out, but I don't understand how it got to this level.
I don't know either. He's very angry, and here they could potentially make out the charge of harassment. He's following her, he's harassing, annoying, or alarming her, and that's a violation here. But what's even more concerning is there could be a trespass, which is a misdemeanor crime, which is serious.
How does this affect the case at hand? Remember, we have officers who have been charged and accused of rape by this young lady. Does this factor into their case at all?
It doesn't look good. The case is already going to be an uphill battle. It's a very egregious case where cops are accused of essentially raping a woman while she is in their custody. So optics is really important here, and having something like this, which is making headlines everywhere, not only here at Law and Crime, it's the New York Post, New York Daily News, it just doesn't look good for their case. You don't want to be attacking a victim in this manner, and it's pretty egregious.
Yeah, the rape victim in this case. And I want to ask about the actual case itself. The officers seem to be saying that it was consensual. Now, don't we see this constantly? Officers who have been accused of this, that, hey, it was consensual while the victim was in our custody. Is that something you keep seeing? And is that going to change how New York law, whatever the outcome of this case might be?
So what's really disturbing is here in New York City and in New York State, it's not specifically illegal for a police officer to have sexual relations with the person that they have in custody.
Wait, repeat that one more time. Say that it's not illegal?
It's not illegal. So if a police officer arrests someone and they are in the custody of the police officer and the defendant, the person that they just arrested, could potentially engage in sexual conduct if it was consensual.
Oh,
there's no
gosh.
law, which I think is incredible, because obviously if it goes without saying, if you're arrested by a police officer, you can't go anywhere. You're scared. This woman is a young woman who was clearly afraid. She was arrested on the pretense, I think, of drugs in her car. And essentially what she's alleging is that they said, hey, we'll let you go as long as you have sex with us. And then she said that she was raped. And so it's really disturbing allegations here.
My jaw is a little bit on the floor listening to what's happening here. So, I mean, when you just hear about the story, you can put it together. How are they going to show that this is consensual? How do these cases play out?
Again, they have to hang their head on the fact that it's two officers who are saying that it's always a he said, she said situation, so it's very difficult.
But they're the ones who arrested her.
Exactly. And I think this is why the DA's office has chosen to prosecute. This case has already gone to the grand jury. It's already become a felony. It's already been indicted by 12 New Yorkers, which is already a sign in and of itself that this case is moving towards trial. So I can't imagine what kind of defense that they would be able to bring.
Yeah.
Because it's really disturbing. And we place a lot of trust in police officers, and for them to misuse this trust is very upsetting.
And I'll tell you one thing, Yosha, that video ain't helping. I'll tell you that much. That is, like you said, that is not helping. Wow, unbelievable case. You can go to lawandcrime.com. We have an article up talking more about that video, and you can learn a little bit more about the case. But we are going to switch gears here. As I said at the top of the program, we are going to talk about Tex MicIver. Now, the most appropriate place to start in this case is from the prosecution's opening statement. And this became a key factor because as we analyze this case, we keep talking about the opening statement. This is the guide, this is the roadmap by which the prosecution will lay out their case. But was it a strong case? Take a look. Okay, so the prosecution is making some really strong arguments there in the Claud Tex MicIver case. Want to bring back on Law&Crime trial analyst Yosha Gunesekera. Yosha, in your opinion, what is the prosecution saying that's really sticking here? What's the worst thing about the Tex MicIver case for the defense?
So right now they're just setting up little breadcrumbs of what's to come. That's why I like opening statements, because they're kind of like a movie trailer. They're hitting on all the highlights, all the high points. And I think one of the things that they're really capitalizing here is that he is not keeping his story straight. It's changing from person to person, and there's a lot of things that he didn't do that he should have done. Why was 911 never called from inside the car? Why is someone who is teaching experts about gun safety not properly using a gun? So they're really laying out those breadcrumbs right now.
Interestingly, because it's the defense who has to raise that reasonable doubt, but they're raising reasonable doubt about whether or not this guy is actually saying what he's saying and whether or not he really is the good husband that he claims to be. And that's what we're going to talk about when we come back from this short break. Do you believe Claud Tex MicIver? Well, we got a lot more to show you. This is just the beginning. Stay tuned. Well, in a case where the defense needs to present some reasonable doubt, it seems like they might be. I want to bring back on Yosha Gunesekera. They're making some really strong points right there. Again, I'm going to ask you now for the defense. What's their strongest argument that you've heard so far?
I think the argument that they're crafting around this being an accident is actually pretty strong. They're saying that, I mean, it's such a bizarre scenario in itself. I mean, we can see that it would be a very awkward situation, an awkward place, a strange place to try to kill someone. So I think what they're doing is they're really setting a very strong foundation for the accident, especially when they're talking about the gun itself. I think, as a defense attorney, that is interesting. I think it's interesting because it's all about the hair trigger. Now, that if it really was a hair trigger, then that proves that this was an accident, or likely that this was an accident.
Yeah, if you can show that you don't even know which action mode it was set in, and it's possible it could have been a hair trigger, really simple to fire, and based upon the way that diagram looked, maybe it was on his lap, it starts to make a little bit more sense that this might have been an accident. And again, why kill her with another witness in the car, her best friend?
Exactly. It's a very bizarre set of facts. And I think this is a compelling defense. It's easy to forget that the burden that the prosecution has is so high. It's beyond a reasonable doubt. And I think the defense already in their opening statement is poking holes in what the prosecution is trying to present.
It's a fascinating case, I must tell you. And when we come back, we're going to play you a little bit more of the defense's opening statement because there's so much more to talk about in this case. And really, they make some very strong arguments, but so does the prosecution. As I said at the beginning of the program, this is why people were split. They didn't know which way to turn. And we'll reveal to you the verdict later on. But we want you to understand every aspect of it before we do so. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. The financial motive. Let's talk about it with Yosha Gunesekera. The prosecution's been very big at saying that he had more to gain financially from her dead than being alive. Do you believe that?
I don't think so. I think what the defense is presenting is actually really compelling. He's 75. He's close to retiring. He probably only has 2 decades of life left, if that. And he's
Wow, what a pessimist you are.
I know. Well, 95 would be a good age to live to. I would be happy to make it there. But anyways, I don't think he has money. He was an equity partner. He was a successful businessman. I don't think he's trying to kill his wife for money, but again, we're only at the opening, so we'll see.
Hopefully what we can show a little bit later is when they really delved into Mr. MicIver's finances. And let me tell you something. It's surprising. You might be very surprised at how much money he actually had and how much money Diane MicIver had. We'll be right back.
Here are today's top crime stories trending on Law&Crime.com and across the country. A teen is recovering after a friend pushed her off of a bridge in Washington, and the incident was caught on camera. 16-year-old Jordan Holgerson is seen being shoved off the bridge near Moulton Falls.
3, no, I won't go in. 2.
Well, she's saying no.
No, I just...
Ready? Oh, that's so close.
Holgerson suffered 5 broken ribs, a punctured lung, and air bubbles in her chest. The Clark County Sheriff's Office is investigating the incident, and it is unclear if the friend who shoved her will be criminally charged. The son of a California police chief is facing charges after he was caught on camera attacking an elderly Sikh man. 18-year-old Tyrone Keith McAllister, son of Union City Police Department Chief Daryl McAllister, is seen on video with an unidentified 16-year-old accomplice attacking the 71-year-old Sikh man who doesn't speak English. McAllister's father released a letter to the public addressing his disappointment in his son's actions. McAllister faces charges of elder abuse, assault with a deadly weapon, and attempted robbery. A woman who claims she was raped by a detective while in custody of police in New York City recorded video being harassed while being served a subpoena by a representative for that detective's lawyer.
Yo, he's not letting me move.
I'm not letting you move.
Look at this.
Look at what? There's a subpoena right there.
Thanks a lot. Now get out of my house.
Oh, goes.
Go ahead. Go
Don't
ahead.
tell me what to do.
Get the hell out of here.
No.
No. Okay.
I'm from the
so
sheriff's
let's record
office.
each
I
other.
can do whatever I want.
Let's do it. Stupid.
You stupid.
Oh, I'm a stupid
Sure.
bitch, you heard?
Sure.
The alleged victim, Anna Chambers, claims NYPD detectives Eddie Martins and Richard Hall raped her in a van after she was arrested on suspicion of marijuana possession. Both detectives maintained that the sex with Chambers was consensual. Those were today's top crime stories. I'm Anthony Velez for Law and Crime.
Wow. Those are some pretty crazy stories, including pushing that girl off the bridge. You can go to Law&Crime.com to learn a little bit more about the other top trending stories of the day. But I want to talk about that last story because there's so much factors going in there. I want to bring back in Law and Crime trial analyst Yosha Gunesekera. That's not how you serve somebody, I'm imagining. So what was going on with him? He's not even from the sheriff's office, but he was the person that the NYPD detective's lawyer hired to serve. What happened here?
That is, I don't know. That is absolutely not how you're supposed to serve a subpoena. I've actually served a subpoena before.
What are you supposed to do?
You need to make sure that you're serving it on the person who needs to appear. So you have to do, usually in person isn't uncommon, but you just hand it to them and you walk away. If they tell you to leave, you can't stick around. I mean, this is clearly harassing behavior. And I don't know what he was doing with the camera phone recording her. That's definitely not part of a any subpoena service I have ever seen.
If you look at the video, he says the subpoena's right there. It's not in her hands. It's somewhere right below that staircase. Is he trying to show that, look, I tried to give it to her, but she wouldn't take it? But he's being overly aggressive, and he says highly inappropriate comments to her and is harassing her.
It's possible that he's trying to show that he did serve it, but then he sticks around after she told him to leave, which frankly could be trespass. I mean, I see a gate there in enclosed space that's presumably her home and place of residence, and he needed to leave after she told him to leave.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can't think about this without the larger scheme of this case. We have the detectives who are being accused of rape by this young lady. This can't be good for their case, where they're, first of all, whenever you fight a rape accusation, they're now, it looks like they're harassing the victim. So that can't look good.
No, the optics of this are terrible, and it's really easy to forget that she is a rape victim in this case, that she is alleging that 2 police officers, while they were on duty, raped her, and it's terrible allegations. The optics of this are horrible because she's further being bullied. And again, she's a young lady. She was suffered allegedly something very horrible at the hands of 2 police officers, people that we really place a lot of trust in. So it's a disturbing case.
And we got to talk about the defense here, okay? So they're arguing that it was consensual. What's the law with police officers and rape victims?
So shockingly, there's actually no law, at least in New York State. There is a law in, I think, 15 other states, but in New York State and 35 other states, police officers are allowed to engage in sex and other sexual activities as long as it's consensual. And
with people they arrest.
With people they arrest. With people that are in their custody, they are allowed to engage in those kind of relations, even though they are exercising a lot of power over that person, because obviously they're in their custody. There's no law against it as long as it is consensual. So the defense here essentially is that what happened was consensual, that she agreed to it, and that would be a defense.
Real quick, if this case goes against, if this goes to trial and the officers are found guilty, can this change the law in New York?
I hope so. I hope this will be a catalyst. This is a particularly egregious case, and this is often how we see legislation change.
Well, it's going to be definitely an interesting case to follow. It's only the beginning part of it, but if you're looking at the defense, that's not a great thing that happened for them. But we'll have to see which way it goes. Anyway, thank you, Yosha, on that. We're going to switch gears ourselves, and we're going to talk about more of the Claud Tex MicIver case, this prominent attorney who was charged with the murder of his wife. The prosecution claimed that he intentionally shot her from the back seat of a moving car. He's claiming it was all a tragic accident. Let's listen a little bit more to the defense's opening statement, where they try to say this was all a terrible accident and he is not to blame. Take a look. Motive. Let's talk about it with Yosha Gunesekera. So the defense is saying, yes, it's strange that you have a husband and a wife who that she was loaning him money. It's very strange, and it was like a real financial relationship, very strange, but that's not an incentive to kill her because they were married. If he was late on the payments, whatever.
And is it really that strange? They got married later in life. They were already well established. They already had their own money. Even today, you see couples keeping their separate bank accounts. So it doesn't necessarily have to be strange. And I think that that's how the defense has to drag it out.
But what is kind of interesting is when we look at Tex MicIver's finances, and she was a very tough businesswoman who made him make those interest payments, and he had to keep paying them. So maybe there's something to the prosecution's argument that when you look at the totality of their financial understanding, their financial relationship, when she really was the breadwinner of the whole marriage, there might be more than the defense is making it. But when we come back, we have a lot more to talk about with the defense. Okay, this is a pretty good opening statement by the defense. I want to get the perspective of Yosha Gunesekera. What do you think about her style?
I really enjoy her style. I think it's very conversational. I think it's sassy at the right points. I think that she is not too overbearing, but she's making her point and she's explaining things in a way that anyone can understand. And she's responding directly to the points that the prosecution is presenting in their opening statement.
The Black Lives Matter comment is huge in this case, right? So the idea that he made this comment, that's why he took the gun out and then tried to retract the statement, what's a jury supposed to think of that?
Well, I think how the defense just dealt with it was really smart. Really, the Black Lives Matter comment is kind of a red herring. It's not really about whether it doesn't go really to his intent. Did he intentionally try to shoot her or not? What I think the prosecution is trying to do by introducing it is to make him a really unlikable guy. And I think that that's what it's proving, that he had a gun out because he was afraid of certain types of people. And I think that that doesn't present very well.
But when the defendant changes his story multiple times, how do you revitalize that? Like, how do you, if you're representing him, how do you, if it's coming out that he's changing his story, how do you change his image in the mind of the jury?
So part of it is really nitpicking here. So we heard the defense attorney say things like with Danny Jo, how, he said that she just didn't want to drag Danny Jo into that mess. You're looking really at specific conversations, or you're conceding, hey, he just said something, it was stupid, it easily could have been misinterpreted. That shows an innocent person.
You're a good lawyer, Yosha. This is why we have you on. So, Yosha, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Have a great weekend, okay?
Thanks, you too.
All right, everybody. What we're going to do on our end is we're going to take a break. But when we come back, we're going to start with the first testimony here in the Claud Tex MicIver case. We're starting off with Janie Calhoun. She was a very good friend and neighbor of Diane McIver, and we'll learn a little bit more about their relationship, which is key in this case. Stay tuned.